All right, hello, and welcome back. Chase Thomas Podcast, taping this on a Tuesday afternoon. Good friend, old friend, Logan Booker, who I met, I guess we're at a decade ago. Is that right, Logan?
I think our class we met each other was back in the fall of 2012, if you can imagine that. So we are over 10 years, man, which literally seems like 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
But it also feels like 20 at the same time, man. So I can't figure it out.
No.
It's good to see you though, man.
You too. And we have different, like, I'm a night owl. You can't even be a night owl with your job, right? Like, there's no chance.
No, I'll tell you, I did not even see a single snap last night of Tampa Bay, and I've already forgotten who they played, man.
Dallas.
Dallas, thank you. So I'm so out of it right now. No, I tried. My goal last night was like, all right, I want to watch kickoff, but then 8 o'clock rolled around, Jeopardy was over, and I'm like, bro, I'm tired. I'm going to bed.
Okay.
So I had one of those, like, wake up in the middle of the night and just, like, roll over, check the phone, and saw that Dallas won, and I was like, well, that's that. So some days are better than others when it comes to staying up late, but that 4:30 alarm is no joke, man, in the morning. So
does the dog get up with you, or is he like, it's too early? Does Chipper?
No, he stays in bed. Actually, when I get up, he takes my spot. He's like, oh, good, I got the pillow spot. Then my wife will let him out when she goes to work. So
okay.
No, he has no interest in that early stuff, man.
You know, you get up early for work when the dog doesn't even. He's like, this is not working for me.
No, but I like getting up early. I like being home early. I like having my afternoons off. But just kind of as I get older, the more I realize that unless it's a live sporting event that I'm really engaged in, nothing good happens at night. So just go to bed. That's kind of where I'm at, man. But
there you go.
It's good. I enjoy it.
Well, it brings me no joy to reveal why you're back on this very podcast, Logan. It's because
I know it hurts, man, but we do what we got to do, and that's win championships around here, Chase. So what can you say?
Hey, no, some schools they emphasize everything school mentality, where it's like, hey, we just want to be in the fold for every sport. Like
exactly,
like we want to be number 2 in the preseason D1 baseball poll. We want to be in the top 5 in basketball and number 1 in defense in Kim Pom. We want to be finishing number 6 in the AP poll. That's what we want to do in Rocky Top. But that's not what y'all want to do. Y'all just want to gobble up all the football national titles and then hibernate for 8 months.
Georgia not ranked right now, but they are 13-4 under Coach White in basketball. And I guess we got a big test tonight against Kentucky, which Tennessee failed that test last week, unfortunately. That was weird. I'm not even trying to talk trash. That was just a bizarre circumstance. I was busy doing something. I was like, I'm sorry, it was the national championship parade I was at. And then I went and checked the score, and I was like, what happened in that game? And I could not believe that Kentucky, after losing to South Carolina, went down to Knoxville. I was expecting the Vols to like handle business, but Tennessee's the better team. You'll get it ironed out. That's the beauty of basketball. You can have a loss here, a loss there, and it doesn't completely ruin your season. So who cares? We'll get there.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
Georgia is gone through a little bit, as you kind of alluded to, like basketball kind of has stunk for a really long time. Baseball wants to be good, but can't get over like the regional hump there. Like this you get the super regional and just kind of fizzle out. So I guess why not put all your chips into basketball? I mean, football right now. So who knows? But it's been
paying off a little bit.
To be alive, man, no doubt about it. But there's some decent things happening around the rest of the programs. It's just right now football is king for good reason.
Well, it's interesting too because you call what is your actual role for the baseball team? Is it do you do play-by-play or you just do like announcements? What do you do?
No, just PA. I'm in the stadium basically saying now batting, and then like between innings is like all the promotional stuff. So I don't do anything with the radio or anything there.
But you're at all these home games. I'm imagining how do you watch every Georgia baseball game?
On the road, I'm not like religious to like sitting down and watching every inning or anything, but I'll keep up with it pretty good. But I'm not like on the edge of my seat watching every single baseball game. No.
Well, the reason I ask is because like something I wrote about this where it's weird, and I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like you would you would share a similar sentiment. Is that like I spend so much time with Drew Gilbert and watching Jordan Beck grow, watching Drew Gilbert grow, watching Tony Vitello build this program, and like I spend so many of my weekends at Lindsey Nelson, and just baseball is a longer sport. Baseball is a more you get more emotionally invested in baseball because you have so much time with these guys and you watch them get bigger and better over the years. And you have this emotional response. Like, it crushed me. Like the Notre Dame loss in the super regionals, like that crushed me. Like I immediately went for a run on campus and was like, I told my wife, I was like, I cannot be consoled or talked to for like the rest of the day. I don't know if I would feel like that at this point with Tennessee football because it's so quick, man. Like I told Matt on the podcast the other day where it's like, it's amazing how quickly the college football season comes and goes. Like it's so quick. You get only 6 games if you're lucky at home, and then it's just gone. Baseball, you're just there and it's all the time. And you spend so much time with these guys that I think I've formed more of an emotional connection to baseball. And that's not to say I'm not emotionally invested in football. It's just different.
I hear you. No, it's football is just king. I mean, that's just what I find most of my emotions in that. If Georgia loses a game, I'm miserable for a while. I mean, it's not a good week. It's dealing with radio. And look, I love our callers, our people we interact with, but like it's a mood. It really is like a vibe around Athens and the state of Georgia, or just like Tennessee too. When a loss happens, people are just very upset. So I actually think baseball is one of those get over it super fast. If something happens. Now, talking about a season, it can certainly sting. And look, I think we all agree Tennessee was the best baseball team the entire year last year. So I totally understand that the crushing feeling there is that, hey, and I don't even, did you even watch the World Series like when it got to that point?
No, I could not do it. And Ole Miss won. Ole Miss barely got into the College World Series. Like they should not even been in the regional. Like it was.
See, I get that. I wouldn't have watched either because you would have watched knowing it's like, dude, I know my team, if they were on this stage, would be winning right now. You had a bad couple of games against Notre Dame, so that stinks. But
it's not like college football where the best team, like Georgia was the best team from beginning to end this past year, and they won the national title. It's not like that in baseball.
Exactly. So I don't know. Let's, for instance, had Ohio State kicked the ball through the uprights. If they had won that Peach Bowl, and they very well could have, you're talking a game of inches when it comes down to that, I would have watched the beginning of the national championship. In all likelihood, I believe this. I can't prove it, but Ohio State would have demolished TCU as well. I would have watched about a quarter of it and said, I'm out. I'm going to bed. And then that would have haunted me the entire offseason, knowing that all we had to do was stop that field goal. Now, you can break the game down and come up with 17 different things that could have gone your way or one way or the other. But, I'm not sure I could have watched it if they had made that. So I get it. I totally do. But my emotional investment is like 95% into the Georgia football team. Love the Atlanta Braves. They gave me a ton of joy a couple years ago, and they're still a really good franchise. But Georgia baseball is one of those things that, they won the World Series back in 1990. It's been a really long time. This generation that's watching them now is honestly kind of used to watching them be good, not great, get to the postseason, and then that's it. They'll wind up losing to a team like Duke, I think a couple of years ago. North Carolina eliminated them last year. So the emotional investment's just not there. And I'll be dead honest, and I'm not trying to talk trash about my own program, but it's a boring product. It really is. I mean, I love the coach. Coach is fantastic. I love some of the players, but the atmosphere over at Foley Field is not what I'm seeing over at Tennessee. In fact, the new ops guy, there's a brand new kid that's taking over Georgia baseball in stadium operations that was like second in command at Tennessee last year. His name is Harrison. I can't think of his last name right now, but he is trying to make Foley Field a lot more lively, and that's
a good get
right now. And he's a Tennessee fan, and he'll tell you that first and foremost, an alumni. But he's going to go over there and try to see if he can get Foley Field to crank up a little bit. So I'll be curious to see what it looks like this spring.
I mean, it's a party. Like the Georgia, I remember when Georgia played at Tennessee last year. Like one of the cool things about being a grad student was I always got in free for baseball, and it was one of those where the line people were getting there at 1:00 in the afternoon on Friday. Like Georgia wasn't even like a powerhouse, but they just wanted to see Tennessee, Georgia. It's a party. Like you talk to players and stuff after, and it's like they've never seen anything like it. I was talking to Jose Vasquez, the Alabama State baseball manager last week. And he played Tennessee in the regionals, and Tennessee just buried him. But like he was talking about it, he's like, Tennessee was the best, but he's like, we've never seen, you just don't see stuff like that in college baseball very often. Like it's a intense, terrifying situation because it's sold out. Like when we say sold out, standing room only, it's something. It's just unlike anything else I've ever experienced in college baseball, and that's fun, and that's what I want all around. Like the dude is like that at Mississippi State. They have a gigantic park, and they really care. Whether it's Ole Miss, Mississippi State, even Southern Miss has a strong fan base. Like it can be done in the South. I think we're going to see more of an uptick. I think you're going to see with NIL more guys not immediately go to the draft, and Georgia, like has a bunch of in-state talent. That I think college baseball is going to continue to get bigger and bigger because it's fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Logan, now that you've had a couple weeks to reflect on
Yeah,
the
man.
national title game, outside of the result, what are you still thinking about with this Georgia run in that game?
I think winning a second one, I know like this time last year, it was such like shock and awe. It was like, oh my God, we actually did it. Like when Keely Ringo intercepted that football in Indianapolis on January 10th, 2022, we all had this like out of body experience. Like, holy crap, we're gonna win the national championship. And then it ends and the game, the confetti falls and that weight is off your shoulders. But then it was mainly Alabama. And I guess, and look, this should never bother me, and it really doesn't. I'm just bringing it up as sort of a point. Like the social media world wanted to do everything it possibly could to discredit Georgia from winning that game. And like, oh, well, if the receivers this and that. I'm sorry, but being healthy at the end of a season is a big ingredient of winning a championship. If your players aren't healthy, I'm sorry for you. I can come up with many examples that Georgia's had where, hey, if we had this player, things would probably be different. But this time around, after spending an entire year as national champions and kind of having that joy, you go into another season. I'm also going to bring Stetson Bennett into this too, because when he announced that he was coming back, I think that in a weird way kind of negated some of the joy of watching him walk away as a national champion after 21. Like, okay, I know your story. Your story is amazing. Let's go ahead and get the Disney movie 10 years from now, all of that. But when he came back and that kind of said, oh my God, like, okay, great, you're back. We know you're a decent quarterback, but now the chances are extremely high that you're going to end your career with a loss at some point, whether it's through Tennessee or Florida or a couple of losses, or just kind of get shamed. And all the haters out there that don't like Stetson, and there's plenty of Georgia fans that for a long time never warmed up to him. It was like, dude, you took your storybook ending, and again, your chances of winning are very little going into the next season, winning it again, and it's just going to kind of tarnish your finish. When you started winning this past season, and things around you started happening. One example is when Alabama lost in Knoxville. You're like, oh, wait a second, maybe Alabama's not that great this year. Other things started happening. I'm trying to think of examples of who started like falling from the perch, and you're like, wow, like maybe Georgia is the best team out there. They can actually win this again. So you get into like late season, and you're like, whoa, like maybe Stetson will actually find a way to pull this off and win back to back. But the farther you get, the more it's going to hurt if it doesn't happen. So when he finally won this thing, and like now he's officially riding off into the sunset, as I think one of the best stories in college football history, being a former walk-on, now winning not one but two national championships, a 15-0 season. I think the relief that I'm feeling right now and just the joy is like even better than last year, even though that 40-year drought finally came to a close. And I think it also solidifies like this era of Georgia football. Of course, fans want 10 more championships in the next 10 years. I mean, that's the way it works. But if another one doesn't come for 5 years, 10 years even, which I hope isn't the case, like the fact that there is now a back-to-back notch on Kirby Smart's era and Stetson Bennett rode off in the sunset, like doing what he did, like it's just – I feel like this is one of those eras that, like, not only will Georgia fans be talking about for a while, I think other fan bases, other coaches, other media will kind of refer back to Georgia, and Kirby Smart is solidified for a long time to come. So it's kind of a weird feeling where it kind of feels like it's like gratification as opposed to relief. And I think it's even better than the relief feeling last year. So I don't know, just kind of sitting back thinking like, okay, eventually Georgia's going to lose a football game, right? Like whether it's next year or 2 years from now, and in all likelihood, probably next year. I mean, it's going to happen at some point, but is that going to like throw a tarnish on this back-to-back year? No, it's going to stink the day it happens, and you're going to go to bed mad, and you're going to like deal with a bunch of trolls online and all that, but who cares? I mean, you always have that back-to-back championships in your pocket now, which – I mean, look, I spent 39 years of my life seeing none of them, and all of a sudden I get back to back. It's like I want to say I can die happy just based on that, but, you know, you start getting greedy. I don't think Alabama fans have enjoyed a national championship since like 2012. I mean, they've won several of them, but they stopped enjoying them. You know what I'm saying? It becomes so expected that the years they don't, they're just mad as hell. I don't want to get to that level, but like, are we slipping into that point? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you've won two. When it doesn't happen, is it going to be a bad thing, or is it going to be like, well, that was a fun run, now let's just try again next year? You know, it's a weird feeling, but I do feel like winning back to back for the fan base and everybody we talk to on our radio show, like the feeling of just it's almost like closure right now. But we know that it's like far from over. But we already have that like closure we were hoping that Stetson would finish with. So it's kind of weird, man. I never thought I'd like be like trying to dissect feelings like this, but it is kind of a weird position to be in. But it's a good one.
It is a good one, and I don't think you're there yet with the Alabama
No,
fatigue.
we're not.
I do think you're on the way. Like, I think
Yeah.
this decade you'll feel it at some point, unless we get just like Kirby leaves for the NFL or something, which I don't think is ever going to happen.
No,
Then that's what's going to happen. Just but you have some time. Don't rush your life, folks.
Right.
Just enjoy this for now.
And I can tell you, knowing the family, I know there's always going to be rumors. I think Arizona Cardinals fans were kind of hoping the last couple of weeks, like, hey, can we go get Kirby Smart over here? And not happening. Absolutely 100% not happening. You know, 5, 6, 7 years from now, if he wants to reassess his like time management and all that, maybe. But as of right now, this family is rolling. The Smarts currently just bought a brand new house, doing this like multi-million-dollar renovation on it. Like they're solidified. They're here.
Yeah, if he leaves, he's retiring. He's taking a break.
And as long as his kids are in this area, which I think his youngest might be 10 or 11 right now, Kirby's going to be the coach at Georgia. I can tell you that. And those Alabama fans that have this like hope and prayer that, oh, when Saban retires, we'll bring back Kirby. Yeah, you can squash those dreams too. That's not happening.
No, I've said for forever that the man who replaces Kirby is Deion Sanders. Like excuse me, not Kirby, Saban.
Yeah.
I think he's been in line for a long time. I don't think there are many people who you have to have an unbelievable ego to replace Nick Saban, like the greatest college football coach at all time at one of the most premier universities. There's only a handful of folks. Like, I don't even think Dabo wants to walk down that aisle of like being the one to replace the GOAT. Deion would embrace it.
Yeah,
like,
that's where I was. I was with Dabo for a while, up until like a year ago or so. I think when he like refused to do the transfer portal, and he said a lot of wonky things here and there the last like year. I think we're seeing the like slide downward of Dabo right now. So I used to kind of staunchly say, I was like, yo, I know he's got what he's got at Clemson, but when you go into Dabo's house and you go down into the man cave and you find all of his memorabilia that maybe he collects, it has the Alabama logo on it. That's where he played. That's where he won a national championship. Why would he not go up to the challenge? But recently I've completely squashed that notion. He is not fit for Alabama as a head coach.
No, I don't think so.
That's interesting, Sanders. I'll have to give that some more thought, but I don't even know my answer right now for who would eventually replace Nick. But yeah.
Well, we know they're cool. Do the commercials together.
Colorado.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens to Colorado. They're going to be must-see television regardless.
How good is it, though? I think we can both agree on this, that he didn't go to, like, Auburn.
Yeah.
He didn't go to, like, Florida or somewhere that, like, you and I would both have, like, mutual, like, angst because of it. I can sit back with my popcorn and watch Colorado for years if I have to, like, have fun with it. But if he were the Auburn coach, I'd be kind of miserable about it.
I feel great right now in the East. You know what sucks, Logan, is we're getting rid of the divisions right when Tennessee's back.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it where I'm like, I only have to worry about Georgia now on the calendar. Yeah. South Carolina, I think, has a huge step back this year. And then Florida is an absolute dumpster fire. And you just look at it and you're like, Vandy, no contest. Mizzou, just another rough situation. Lose their leading receiver to Georgia, Dominic Lovett, and you're just like, all right, is Brady Cook going to be the guy again? Are we doing this all over again? And then, of course, we're going to go away from that. But, I mean, I think if you're a Georgia fan, you're excited about that because, like, this schedule, and I think Georgia fans get a little bit, you can speak more to this than I can, but, like, Georgia fans seem to get a little bit apprehensive when people point out, like, oh, this schedule sucks. So when you're looking at the 2023 schedule, you're like, oh, they're going to walk into three-peat. And it's like, well, and they throw out that we had Oklahoma on the schedule and it got taken away. And it's like, well, you were going to blast Oklahoma. Like, that's not one we're talking about. We want like better SEC games. Like Georgia just never played Alabama this past year. Like it kind of sucks that we just never saw that. So I think that's more of the issue. It's just that the SEC schedule is not great because if you're a Georgia fan, you looked at the home games this past year and you're like, what am I spending my money on? Like we had one? I mean, you've been the leader in this of like no night games at least. Like we don't get a night game at Stanford. Like it kind of sucks, right?
Yeah. No, and when we shuffle the thing up, I would love to play like we play Auburn every single year, but throw Alabama more on the schedule. Yeah. Do you realize that we have yet to go to Texas A&M? Georgia has not played ever, like since 2012. What was that? What year is this? 23, 11
years?
Yeah,
we're looking at 11 years now.
We still have not been to A&M. We're not scheduled to until 2024, if that holds true.
Mm.
I'd like to see them more often. There's a lot of teams like when Arkansas came last year, albeit it was Arkansas, but they found themselves ranked number 8. It was a noon kickoff. The atmosphere was awesome. It was something different. It was a team that had risen at the moment to be a top 10 team, and Georgia shut them out 37-0, which was pretty awesome. But I mean, it was just, I want to see more rotation. Florida, it's not our fault they're down right now. And by the way, I think that game in the next couple of years is very, very close to coming home and home. I do not see that going beyond the latest contract, which is through 24.
What they should do is home and then back to Jacksonville. Home and home, back to Jacksonville.
See, you can't do a 3-year schedule though. I mean, you got to have it an even because of the home and all the balance of the SEC schedule and all that. So, but honestly, we've had this conversation a lot. It's either going to be Jacksonville all in or home and home, and that's it. I mean, there's really no like 3-4 year rotation that makes any sense at all. Even the whole Jacksonville, Atlanta, Athens, Gainesville, just no, home and home or Jacksonville. I would love to see it stay in Jacksonville, but I can just tell you based on what I've gathered around town and everything that Kirby's very adamant that he wants and recruiting this and that, it's coming home very soon. It'll bolster the schedule at home a little bit, but it's up to Florida to get better. I mean, look, you said they were a dumpster fire. I couldn't agree more. I don't think that in my lifetime, Georgia and Florida have been this far apart in what's happening. And I love it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, now the trip to Jacksonville doesn't look nearly as competitive, and it's going to be held against us here and there. So get better, Florida. Step it up.
Graham Mertz is going to be their week 1 starter, it looks like. Florida is a mess.
Their fans are not happy about it either, man. So
no, which is great for both of us. The rare thing Tennessee Georgia fans can celebrate is Florida being a dumpster fire.
Absolutely.
Is Stetson the GOAT dog for you?
He's the greatest of all time. I mean, like he's the greatest for what he brought. Now, greatest doesn't mean most physical, most imposing, most dominant. I don't want to sound like a 1980 Barker, but I mean, Herschel was a pretty damn good football player and he was pretty dominant. But as far as like what he brought to the university, his story, which I think 10 years from now, you'll see, I've referenced this earlier, Disney Plus will have a movie called The Underdog. It's going to be spelled D-A-W-G. It'll be the cutest thing ever. And that'll be the Stetson Bennett story. I mean, bringing national championships to Georgia, which has been starving for it for so long, and we've been told by all our rival fan bases how down we've been for 40 years and this and that. It was great to get over that hump. And then for him to do it again is just unbelievable. And I know he has a little bitter chip on his shoulder right now toward media and even some fans for doubting him. But did you see that, by the way, at the championship celebration in Sanford? He was being interviewed on stage and they were like, hey, what was your favorite part about being a dog? And he just kind of like paused and he just started saying, well, all y'all doubted me. And this and that, he kind of like came across as like giving the fan base some big double fingers, but it's not. And there's a lot of fans that are upset about it right now, but they'll get over it because he brought national championships.
Well, you just talked about it. Like there were Georgia fans. It took a really long time for a lot of them to get on board with Stetson being the guy. But this was something that I think Georgia fans, and I wonder if you were on this party with Stetson, is just that like, he was never like, you could tell how much someone actually watched Georgia based on how they described Stetson, right? Where they were like, oh, he's just this undersized game manager. It's like, there's not one part of game management to Stetson Bennett. Like his best attribute is like his deep bombs and rolling out when things break down. Like he was awful again on short stuff in the national title game. You go through his PFF, just his throw chart and where his hot zones are. Like he's so much more comfortable going over the top, the big plays to AD Mitchell in the title game last year. Like his best quality is that he's not afraid to uncork it. And he does the phone thing against Tennessee. Like Eric Ainge went too far. Like Eric Ainge, I'm not signing up for anything he's saying, but there was one kernel, which is part of what makes Stetson is he has this chip on his shoulder where he's not a punk, but he's extremely confident. And he's extremely like, hey, y'all doubted me. Y'all didn't want me. You wanted JT Daniels. You wanted this. I'm just going to keep kicking the crap out of everybody week in, week out. And he carries himself that way.
It built the chip. I mean, like that chip is real. And I think that he's harnessed that to success for multiple national championships. And he wants nothing more, I think, in his mind. Okay, I know you watched The Last Dance. Great documentary about Michael Jordan. I think it's almost a complex where it's like, all right, you doubt me, I took that personal. And I think he wants to build that in his mind all the way through the draft process and just hold that mantra, by the way. So I think it is people like, and here's my sort of psychoanalysis too. And I think Stetson is guilty of this. there are the Eric Ainges of the world. There are other bigger personalities nationally that have doubted Stetson for a long time. There are fans all over social media, both Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Auburn, all the fans out there that have their like things to say negatively about Stetson. I do think Stetson is guilty of probably reading way too much social media. And then and I see this in government, I see this in sports. If you hang out on social media and you're thinking that that's reality, you know this, the 5% that are the loudest do not make up the other 95%. So you got to get that out of your mind, is that, okay, these guys are –
we don't all throw mustard bottles and golf balls at Tennessee football games.
No, absolutely not. But, I mean, we want to act like that on social media. Exactly. So I think Stetson's probably seen a lot of it and just assumes, well, the whole world's against me, and all I did is win 2 national championships. Here's a middle finger for each one of them as I'm on my way out. I mean, it's like – just kind of step back, dude. Like the guys at the ceremony the other day, they were there to celebrate you. Those were these season ticket holders that get in fights on social media, backing you up, and they're here to like celebrate with you. But I think he got just kind of caught in his feelings a little bit there. So who knows? But as far as Eric Ainge, by the way, this is happening. So we got a group of guys here in Athens that when those replica rings are available, and they are, I mean, that you can buy them for like $30-$40. We're actually making one with Eric Ainge's name on it and sending it to him, because he 100% fueled that crowd in Athens that day, made them as loud as they could possibly be. And then I don't know if his comments before the national championship sparked Stetson or not, but Eric Ainge will receive a package in the mail soon with a Georgia national championship ring with his name on the side of it. So he'll look forward to that. I hope he enjoys it.
There's always kernels with him, though, where it's like he was undefeated against the UGA in Athens, and he did not have problems. He played there, and he was like, hey, he was talking. If he had just left it at when I played there, wasn't an issue. I'm not really worried about it. It was not an issue when I played there. I won. Like, it's just not the same. Like, that's fine if he had just left it at that. But it's also, like you said, it just there was an uprising, and I don't know. Like, that game forever will haunt me in a multitude of ways. But it is what it is. It's okay. They were not winning that game no matter what with Jalon Carter. It didn't matter. Double teams, whatever. Like, Tennessee had no shot once because Hendon had a one-step drop. Jalon Carter was in the backfield immediately, and it's just there's nothing you can do. Like, there was no path.
I can have this conversation with you because I think we're both very cordial with this. And here's my hot take, and you can hang up on me if you want to. I think the rain that day kept Tennessee in a New Year's Six bowl. Okay, if it doesn't rain, Georgia unleashes hell and fury on Tennessee that day. What you saw against TCU was clicking against the Vols. When Georgia went into halftime, Georgia took the reins, or they put the reins on and said, we're done. Like, we are no longer, the rain is about to come. We are no longer playing our offensive game. Kirby said as much in his post-game little rah-rah speech to the Stetson and all the guys. Like, Stetson, we took the ball out of your hands. Tennessee could not stop Georgia that day. Tennessee or Georgia decided, hey, it's raining. We got a lead. We're running between the tackles, and we're just going to see what happens, and we'll just stop Tennessee. But if the rain's not there, I hate to tell you, man, I think Georgia scores like 55 points that night.
I think you're right. They score enough, but like Tennessee missed 3 open bombs that Hendon never misses. So they're like, the screen gaps are right there. If you go back through, like, just 3 touchdowns just that he's hit all year long. So I think with no rain in that scenario, and I think he hits a couple of those. So I think it's probably like you said, where it's like 56-30, 56-28 or something. I don't know. I think Tennessee scores a lot more in a dome Peach Bowl atmosphere.
Yeah, it would have been really ugly. I don't know. But dome Peach Bowl, I would have liked to have seen it. But I mean,
Tennessee's not. But that's the whole thing is like Georgia is ahead of the curve. Like, they're the premier program. Like, Tennessee does not have the bodies yet. I mean, they're coming in. We'll see this class I'm very excited about. Nico, we'll see. But you have to, it's not one recruiting class is going to flip this for Heupel and company. Like, you have to keep building like Georgia has. You have to keep winning in the trenches and keep adding name after name after name. And then, I mean, you got to develop. And it's not quick. Tennessee was ahead of the curve. And that's what I was telling Tennessee fans, where I'm like, they should not be number 1 right now. Like, this is insane that Heupel has gotten them to this point in a year and a half. Like, this is pretty remarkable. But to win in the trenches and to really start competing week over week with the Georgias and the Bamas of the world and the Ohio States, really, it's going to take longer than this. It's going to be year 3, year 4.
When Georgia won, 17, went to the national championship game, won the Rose Bowl, that was Kirby's second year. We all felt the same way. It's like, oh my God, we're so far ahead of the curve. And we were. I mean, it was quick. But like you
But you
said,
didn't have like 30 players leaving the portal that
no,
year
but
one for Kirby.
15 was an extremely divisive year. I know Georgia won 10 games, but there was a lot of just like really, really crazy stuff going on behind the scenes. And the team was very split thanks to Jeremy Pruitt. There's another name we can both hate on together. But he divided the hell out of that team. And 16 was a bit of a, or 17, no, 16 was a mess when Kirby Smart took that over. Had a couple good guys, but yeah, 17 was a big surprise. And then we felt like, oh, that's okay. That really sucks. We'll be right back next year. And it took another number 1 recruiting class, number 2, number 3 recruiting class to finally get back to the playoff in 21. And the thing is like Bama's been there the whole time. Bama's not going anywhere right now either. I mean, like you and I both, Georgia, Tennessee still has to go through Bama. I know it didn't work out for him this year, thanks in part to Tennessee for knocking them out early, but it's they're going to be out there. So, and LSU, I think, is going to get better and better. So just because like Tennessee rises or Georgia stays at the top doesn't mean that they just have this like, let's just walk on into the playoff until it becomes 12. Then we're all going to go. But yeah, there's a lot of players out there outside of just yourself that you have to hope go your way.
Is it Carson Beck or could it be someone different week 1 for Georgia?
All money would be on Carson Beck, mine included. But Brock Vandegrift is a 5-star kid from in the area, Prince Avenue Christian in Athens. Gunnar Stockton, another high 4-star, almost 5-star kid from North Georgia. And he was committed to South Carolina for a long, long time. But both of those guys are really, really good. But it's become very, very clear the last couple of years that Carson Beck has been being groomed by Todd Monken to take over for Stetson when he's gone. As long as he is healthy, I do believe it'll be Carson Beck. I think Georgia's going to be a much heavier run offense next year. I think Kendall Milton came on really strong this past year. Branson Robinson, who scored those touchdowns late in the national championship, is a true freshman that just blows me away right now. Another year of him in the system, it'll be pretty darn good. But
you got Roderick Robinson coming in from UCLA too, right?
Who's that?
Roderick? Is it Roderick Robinson, the UCLA?
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to think of his name. I'm not as well versed on like the current recruiting cycles as like I should be. But yeah, there's a lot of depth there. I mean, Dejon Edwards, another good name that's gonna be back next year running the ball as well. But Carson's good. Carson's problem is that he comes in and doesn't protect the ball very well. He's thrown some really just head scratching interceptions over the years, albeit in garbage time. He hasn't really gotten meaningful close game snaps ever. But I mean, when he's in, he just looks a little bit loose with the ball. And if he's going to be the guy in charge, then he'll have to clean some of that stuff up. So yeah, betting, I'm sliding my chips on his table, but I would not be shocked if one of those younger kids kind of makes a big step toward maybe fighting for some playing time as well.
Do you think all 3 on the roster come opening day?
I do now. Ask me this next year. I'm not sure. I think whoever sees the writing on the wall this upcoming season in 23, that they're going to be number 3 in this cycle is probably going to go, because Carson's got a couple years of eligibility left. This whole COVID year is like screwed up all eligibility. It's hard to even like get a calculator.
When is the last year that it phases out? Is it next year that it phases out?
I guess, yeah, it's through 24, even 25 if you were if you're a 4-year player and you played in 20. So we got a little ways to go, which is crazy. But yeah, I think the third guy in command will get the writing on the wall and leave. And then Georgia's in on a couple of like Dylan Raiola looks like he might be promising to come to Georgia, who would be pretty sick to get, and others, and the Puglisi kid. But I don't know. So the 3 will be there this fall. Those 3 will not be there the fall after. There's my long answer for you.
The next Georgia defensive star we don't know is who?
Jalon Walker. You saw him get a sack at the end of the national championship, put Duggan on his butt. But this kid as a true freshman this year has just been. He's Nolan Smith, and he is your next Nolan Smith, and he's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger, and he was right out of the gate, a day 1 playing time guy. Blocked a punt on special teams this year. He is just absolutely everywhere, and I think he might be one of those household names coming up here in the next couple of years. And watch out for Bear Alexander. He's a little bit undersized, but you saw him just like play as if he was like Jordan Davis's size. And I think he's got the potential to grow a little bit too, but he's our next sort of